Hello and welcome to this talk that I'm going to be giving for Public Sector Week Innovation with digital leaders. We're going to have a chat today about Agile and how you can actually apply it across your whole digital program. And one of the reasons we're going to be looking at this is because Agile is probably one of the most misconstrued concepts that there is out there. And people talk about it all the time, talk about being agile mindset and all sorts, but in most cases, when you actually get into it, people are really talking about Scrum or a derivative, I can't even say that word, of Scrum. And they're talking about software development, they're talking about sprints and how you're building software. But they don't actually understand that what you're doing with Agile is actually taking kind of those values and principles within the manifesto and applying them to the work that you're doing. And for me, one of the big things is the simplicity of it, is taking out work that you don't need to do. And particularly in public sector, local government, central government, we know there's huge amounts of kind of paperwork, governance, administration, everything that sits around your digital program. So I'm going to just quickly take you through some slides today, showing you how you can actually apply agility, adaptability into that program, so you're not spending hours and hours on the governance, the reporting, everything else that you need to do within your programs. So I'll start with who I am. Richard Godfrey, Managing Director of Sin City. I've written a book, I've got a podcast, I've got this fascination with AI images at the moment and anything that's Japanese. I used to be IT Director at Peterborough City Council many years ago. Then I went off to a software supplier, worked for them for 3 years. And then I've been working for myself as a consultant back into the sector for about 4 years now. So I like to think I understand what's going on across most councils, most areas, local government more so than central, but what we're going to talk about will apply to both. And obviously just for fun, and I love AI and the images that we can create, I asked it to create an image of me, kind of in that Japanese anime theme. And I don't know whether I'm flattered or angry about the fact that this is what AI thinks I should look like a henchman thug, to be honest. But that's where we're going with these tools. It's good fun to have a bit of a play with them sometimes. So how we're going to really do this is look at two elements. The first one is, I mentioned the book. I wrote a book a couple of years ago. In that, we talk about a process where we go through a methodology called Be the Five. It takes you through the steps of discuss, discover, decide, design, and deliver. It was written for kind of chief execs, senior leaders who don't really understand technology, but to give them a process or a methodology they can follow to actually kind of get to understand it, get to grips with it. What we're going to do here is kind of almost take it down a tier. So we're not talking senior management, CEOs. We're talking kind of heads of service, IT directors, PMO leads, change management leads, transformation leads, and actually how you can still apply the same methodology and the same principles. At the same time, I've kind of got a bit of a different framework around Agile. Tangen is the Japanese word for simple. So it's a simple Agile process, but it effectively takes you through your strategy, your plan, your business case, your project, and then the benefits, but in a way where they're all kind of interlinked and intertwined to make life simpler for yourself. So we're not writing a buzzword bingo strategy that we see all the time, where you actually then come to do your plan in your business cases and you're really struggling to justify some of that investment or the time and effort that you need to do. This is about how we simplify that entire process, make things very simple, very easy for you. And as I said, people love to overcomplicate things. They write all sorts of stuff about agile and agility, and they add lots of layers to it and all these tiers. And actually, you almost need to go the other way. You need to oversimplify it, make it very simple, very easy for yourself, which is why we effectively are looking at the values and principles, which we'll kind of get to at the end as a summary of, so you can see how it all fits in. But it's how we apply that across our entire digital program. So the two sides of the book and the agility, the agile side, are kind of intertwined. There's no kind of two ways of escaping that. So from the book, the first element we talked about was discuss and discover. Probably two of the key things that we need to do as an IT department or a project management or change management transformation, go and talk to people. Go and have conversations with departments, find out what they're working on, find out what their ambitions are, what they need to achieve, find out the problems, and kind of discover what's happening, what solutions there might be. You can't spend enough time talking to other departments. IT can't work in a silo. It can't just sit at the back and hope people come to it. We need to be out there talking to people, understanding their needs, what requirements they've got, what problems they've got, the ambitions they need to achieve, and obviously what our role in that can then be. That's what will start to pull together into your strategy. So your strategy document kind of links with the third element, which is decide. Decide on your strategy. What are you going to do? So from all those discussions, from all that discovery, that starts to formulate into a plan, the digital strategy. From there, we're going to a slightly different order because plan actually comes next, but business case is also linked to decide. So there's decisions you're going to make around business cases, which ones you're going to do, how you're going to fund them, and all that side of things. So kind of business case sits within decide, but also sits within design, because within that, we're going to look at the overall plan. We're going to be looking at annual plans, how we deliver a program of works over a financial year. And we're going to try and keep to financial years so it's manageable. So we're not writing a 5-year strategy as a PDF that goes on the website. We're writing a strategy that's kind of adaptable. It can change, but we still have to have some structure to it. So we're looking at how we build an annual plan off the back of that and design around that. And obviously we'll come into that, but we'll look at the resources we've got, obviously the money we've got, the time, the skills, all of that side of things into how you can build that plan out. And then deliver, which is the last of the Ds, effectively, is you've now got a project that you need to go and deliver, or work that you need to do to go and help these departments. And obviously from that, you're hoping that you're going to derive benefits. But in the way that we are going to build this kind of model, you're actually going to identify the benefits in the strategy. So when you're writing the strategy and we're looking at the ambitions, the problems, and the actions we're taking, that's where the benefits start to come out. And I think you'll find too often people sit down to write a business case, and as they're writing the business case, they're then asked to put benefits into it. And you're almost trying to retrofit a series of benefits into a business case to justify it. Whereas actually, if you've already identified them as part of the strategy, the business case, the plan, the project, the benefits naturally follow and makes life much easier for yourself. What it does mean is you have to put more time and effort into the strategy up front, working on that, making sure that's got the detail in it to deliver everything else. But if you get that right, everything else naturally just flows from it. So within that, as I mentioned, key bits: discuss and discover. Go and talk to people, go and talk to departments, ask them about what they need to achieve, what their ambitions are, what their problems are, and effectively kind of understand the nature of your organisation, where it's headed, where it's going. Local government, we all know we've got budget cuts. We're under severe pressure financially. What resources have they got? Are they having to make headcount reductions? Are they wanting to deliver a better service? There's all sorts of things that they need to achieve. It does kind of force them to think about it more. It makes them think about what it is they want to achieve, what their ambitions are. And I've had some challenge around the word ambition, but it could be that you're taking the housing strategy and what they want to achieve, or your planning strategy, what they want to achieve over the next few years. It could be financial. There's all sorts of things. We've got business plans, we've got service plans, and then we do actually just have ambitions where we need to talk to them. So you're going to capture all of these. You're then going to look at the problems. What's stopping them from achieving that? So effectively, your strategy is, where do you want to be? Where are you now? And obviously, what's stopping you from getting from where you are now to where you want to be? And that's where the actions will come out of that. So as you're talking to people, you're starting to build a picture of what are the problems going on, what actions can we take? And that starts to formulate into your strategy document. And obviously all of that becomes a decision around what you're going to do. Now, you can't just do this once. It's not a one-off. You go and have a chat with one person, you understand the entire organization. You're going to end up repeating this over and over again. So you're going to have, I don't know, let's stick with local government. You're going to have a housing one. You're going to have a waste one. You're going to have an environmental health one. You're going to have a revs and bends one. All of your different departments are going to have their own kind of business plans or service plans. How kind of low down within that you want to go? Do you want to break directorates into smaller services? That's up to you. Depends on the size of the organization you work at, or whether you can keep it high level. But from this, you're starting to formulate ideas around what are kind of the major problems across the organization that IT or the digital team or the change team can play a role in alleviating. So one of the ways I do this, I've got a template. This is from a specific project I worked on, but you don't have to copy it exactly. But above the line, we have kind of what does the department need to achieve? What outcomes? Is there people change, reductions, the changes in policy, how they work, changes in the budgets? Outcomes and desired outcomes is effectively the difference between a new system going live is an outcome of a project, but the new system saving 10% is the desired outcome. So in this one, I split them out. And then under that, we talk about manage, improve, and reimagine. There's 3 categories. So manage for me is kind of, let's call it your legacy estate. It's stuff that you just are going to, you're probably going to keep for a few more years. You just have to look after it. There's not much more you can do with it. A great example is probably your revs and bend system, because it's such a big system. It's such a huge job to migrate from one to another. Chances are you're probably just going to keep using the same one. But actually, when you get to improve, there might be things you can do. There might be some processes you can change within it. There might be some additional data you can add to it, link up to your data warehouse and get a better view of who's taking single person discount, who's got a rented property that you need to understand that you're doing selective licensing for, HMOs, things like that. So you might be able to build something on top of your legacy system, and that's where we start talking about improve. And then reimagine is effectively blank piece of paper. There is no service system in place that we need to worry about, or if there is, it's going. We can reimagine what that looks like as a new piece. So as you go around each of the departments asking them these questions, you don't have to follow this template. Build your own template that works for you. But you can start to pull together these. You might end up with 30 sheets of paper. When I did this, I just printed it all out onto A3 because it was easier to write and scribble on bits to start thinking about what they're going to do. So again, as you get to that strategy stage, you might end up with 30 of these, at which point, almost like instead of Post-it notes on a wall, you end up with 30 of these across your wall. You can start to pull out some of the core themes across them, and then obviously start to plan out what those actions will be that you can deliver that year. Just a simple way of kind of starting to build that strategy. But it means, again, that you're not just sat working in a silo, excuse me, away from everyone else. It's a joined up piece of work. So what you'll end up with, hopefully, is something like an ambition that says we need to reduce our service cost, or we need to improve the way that we deliver the service. We need to process quicker, get through more claimants, more people applying for council accommodation, all of that sort of stuff. Understand what it is they want to achieve. But there's one key point in this. Too many times we just use generalizations and we just put, oh, we just want to improve or we just want to reduce. If we're going to measure the benefits of this at the end, we need actual numbers. So we're going to reduce the cost of the service by, I don't know, £1 million, or we're going to reduce the cost of the service by 10% of the current budget, or we're going to improve service delivery by an extra 50 claims per week being processed. Put numbers in, be specific. Even if you have to kind of work with the head of service or the team leader to put those numbers in, we're not holding you to them necessarily, but in the way that we're going to manage the benefits of what we're delivering, we need something to actually measure them against. From there, you're going to have a list of problems that you've identified. I've made these up. I've literally just thrown some in, probably ones that you've all seen across your organization. Put them all in. It doesn't matter if there's one problem or 100 problems. Drop them all in. You want to understand what's going on across your estate. It's part of your job is to understand what's happening, how we're working. And then 3, actions. So we take those away as a team, as a PMO, as a digital team, as an IT team, as a transformation team. We can start to look at what the actions are that we need to do. In this one, we've got 2 options. So we can obviously, as everyone seems to be building Power Apps, and that's the answer to everyone's problems at the moment. There's a Power App one in there, but actually there is a simpler one where we just build something and connect it to the back end. So you can look at more than one action. You can put them into the strategy. You can have a couple, because when we then start to look at the plan and the business case, we'll decide on which one we can actually do, which one we can afford, what skills we've got, and which one we can deliver, which one actually delivers the most benefit for kind of the investment you're going to put into it. So your strategy effectively, although I've said it becomes a series of kind of ambitions, problems, actions, there's 2 elements to it really. There's above the line. So what most people's strategies are currently, and I read a lot of them last night, are kind of digital visions, nice to have, talk about themes and pillars and all sorts of things like that. But you can have a digital vision, set out what the overall ambitions of your organization are. With that, you're going to want some guiding principles, something around how you're going to work as an organization, how you're going to choose tech. I've done this with West Lindsay, and we've got an acronym which is WL-ICES. WL is for West Lindsay, so the good of the organization over everything else. So you don't buy an HR system that makes HR really good, but makes everyone else in the organization really kind of time poorer, putting in for leave or updating, flexi, anything like that. I is for integrated. Doesn't mean it has to be, but let's at least have the conversations about should it and at what level. I says C is for, I can't remember what C is for. E is ecosystem. I'll come back to that. Oh, sorry. C is cloud. So cloud first policy is something they've got. That's the way they're going to go within that. E is ecosystem. So when you're looking at buying new tools, new software, look at ones that also have an ecosystem of tools around it that can also help you design to work with it. So you're not necessarily looking at building APIs or difficult connections if you do need those integrations. And then S is security. Obviously understanding that everything you do has to be secure and kind of measured in a way. So they can basically use those. So when we're looking at what is the next solution for this, there's almost like a little checklist. Have we had the conversations with the other departments this impacts on? Does it need to be integrated to anything else, or 2 teams be integrated? Is it cloud first? Doesn't have to be, but that's our preferred route. Is there an ecosystem of other tools around this tool we're going to buy? And then obviously, is it secure? Does it help us kind of defend against cyber attacks, which are obviously prevalent in the press at the moment? But then underneath the line, this is where you have your ambition, problem, actions. This is an element you probably don't want to publish. So by all means, publish your digital vision, publish your guiding principles. You don't necessarily want to publish everyone's ambitions and a list of all the problems they currently have. That might be relatively embarrassing for some organizations, but because you have to be honest in getting to those problems and understanding how they work, there will be stuff within that you genuinely don't want to share. So this stays below the line. And then your list of actions. And again, you might have multiple actions. You might have an action that only solves one problem. You might have an action that solves 10 problems. This is kind of where we get into the design of it and making sure that we're structuring it the right way to deliver what we need to. So then, as I said, we get to the plan. And this is linked to design. So we're designing what this looks like. So we're taking all of the actions we're going to do. We can start to build out what that kind of looks like as an annual plan. We know what time we've got, how long we can spend on each of the actions, kind of do a rough in your head business case on what that would look like. We know what resources we've got, who's available within the team, what skill sets they've got. Obviously, then you can't have, if you've got one Power App developer, not every single action you take can be build a Power App. because that one person is going to be swamped and have too much to do. So it's about just balancing your resources across. And I've seen organizations where the list of projects that they've said yes to in a year is ridiculous compared to how many people that are actually available to deliver it, but they'd never said no to anything. So this is about kind of having those thoughts up front and really designing out that annual plan. And one of the key bits is obviously the benefits. So how many problems are you solving and in which departments, and therefore which ones are going to have the biggest impact on the council or your organisation as a whole. So there might be some benefits to doing some work in housing, but actually the bigger benefit is going into social care and spending more time, putting more resource into that project, because that's a bigger win. So you just have to be flexible and as I say, prioritise everything. So don't just say yes to everything. You're going to build a plan. You're going to set out what that looks like. And then obviously, kind of if other plans come across, other projects start to drop in, you understand whether you can actually deliver them or whether you need to drop stuff and or bring in additional resource from external places. But what this does allow you to do, and I think one of the things people get scared at with Agile, is how you fund a project where you're not necessarily giving all of the outcomes or all of the detail up front, but you're building a plan where you can move to kind of like this annual model of funding your projects. I actually call it program delivery because, as you'll see when we get to that bit, we are looking at how we're funding the entire year, the entire program of work that we're doing to give the return back to each of the departments to meet their ambitions. So instead of kind of where a lot of places are, where we individually we're looking at projects, then we're trying to get the funding for them on an individual basis, what that actually leads to in the project delivery is an element of almost carrying on with the project for the sake of carrying on with the project, because we've put a project plan and a business case together individually. So we're looking at how we move more program wide with that. And it can be something as simple as a little Gantt chart like this. I don't use them for actual projects, but for looking at what your annual plan can be, you'll have your projects, you know roughly how long they're going to take to deliver. We work to a few numbers I'll give you in a minute to look at what that looks like. But if you get this kind of agreed up front, then when project number 9 comes along, there's an easy conversation about where that sits. Someone's either going to have to wait until you've got capacity, or they're going to take project 6 out, for example, move project 6 somewhere else, and then drop project 9 in. So again, we're not just saying yes, yes, yes to everything. We're actually putting a plan behind it and making sure it's structured in what we're doing. Excuse me. Business case, decide and design. So we're starting to think about almost in reverse what we've talked about in the strategy. So the action is now we want to invest some time and money and effort in an in-house project. So we've decided that the Power App is the way to go. I've put £500 a day because a lot of time we forget that actually all of our internal resources cost money. And it might not be £500 a day, but it's a good way of just saying, okay, if we build a Power App and it takes 10 days, that's £5,000 roughly that's cost, which probably would cost if you went external, but kind of the return on investment to the department is probably worth 3 times that. So that makes sense to go down that route. If you're not using monetary figures, it's quite difficult sometimes to justify that. So our business case, we're going to make an action, we're going to invest some money in doing this piece of work because this solves this set of problems that the department have told us they have. That set of problems is stopping them from achieving the ambition, which is to reduce the cost of service by 15%. It's almost a business case you can't turn down, because someone to turn that down is going to say, no, we don't want to solve those problems, and therefore we don't want to hit that ambition. So it as you can see, the agility, the simplification of it is we did some of the hard work up front, because now the business case becomes much simpler. And you've probably all seen business cases that end up being 50, 60 pages. I know of some that have taken 18 months from day they were started being written to actually being approved. All of that takes far too long. It's got to be much quicker. And this is a way of bringing that into your organization, so people understand why you're doing projects very, very quickly, and obviously what you're going to deliver as part of that. Now, the key thing as well is, in a lot of cases, the technology will solve some of the problems, but actually there's a change management piece after the technology has gone live that actually will reduce the cost of service. So just be aware kind of where that sits within the program as well. So not everything is just we go live with the tech and we've automatically, we've automatically resolved these problems. So project, very quickly, what we're then looking about is how we deliver agile projects. And again, this falls into the Scrum category. People start talking about Scrum and how you do it. But effectively, what you're saying is we're going to do a project. The start and the end dates are fixed in stone. The time we're going to spend, the resources, they're fixed in stone. So you're effectively saying we're going to spend, I don't know, let's say 10 weeks building this app or building the system or configuring a system, changing processes. It's a 10-week processes based on £500 a day. We therefore know exactly what the return is we're going to get from that. What isn't fixed is the deliverables. And what we mean by that is effectively if you're building for 10 weeks, you might deliver everything that they want. You might only deliver part what they want. You have to kind of understand that you can't just keep going with a project, keep building, keep delivering, because actually if you then end up having spent 30,000 building an app that only kind of saves you 30,000, that might have been a project that was never been approved in the first place. And most of you will know about Moscow in deliverables, your must, shoulds, coulds and won'ts. Use something like this. You don't have to use this exact model, but you can go through and say, actually, of that list of problems or of the deliverables we're going to deliver, here are the main ones we're going to do. And because it's agile, it's flexible. Again, people worry about the fact that one of the things with agility is things can change and you can change what you're delivering or what you're doing. And yes, you can, but only to a point. And the point is that in the project, you're all about removing the problems. So if what you're doing changes, but you're still removing the problem, that's fine. If what you're doing changes and you're now looking at something completely different, that's not fine. That's where you need to stop and think about the project as a whole and where it's going. And one of the reasons we talk about this, and I'm going to hold my hands up, I saw a video on LinkedIn that had something like this. I've edited it slightly to work for me, but you go through what you're building, what you're configuring, what your process builders are like. You go through your musts and your shoulds. And then what happens, because we've planned a project over a long period of time, in this case 6 months, we end up doing the coulds, and in a lot of cases we actually end up doing the won'ts as well, because we've got that period of time set for the first project. Then when we finish the first project, in month 7 we start the project number 2, and we go through the same process again. So we're actually spending almost 3 months of the first project doing stuff that brings very little kind of benefit realization, and in the second project, obviously kind of months 9 to 12 doing the same. Whereas if we're applying some agility and we're time boxing our projects and how we're going to deliver them, then you can start to look at project 1 getting down to the shoulds, and then project 2 starting straight afterwards. So you can go from 1, you hand the system over, they start using it because that should be at a point where it's usable for them. Project 2 kicks off straight away. So the first 6 months of work are delivering across 2 projects, but the key bits of those 2 projects. Then if you have capacity, month 7 to 12, you're looking at the coulds. We're not putting any wants in, we're just looking at some of the coulds. So we could refine it slightly. We could add a little bit more detail, a bit more data, a few more new processes. But these aren't things that are massively going to change how anyone works or the benefits that it's going to give. But again, where you have to be adaptable, project 3 can start at any time. And if project 3 is starting with a series of musts, then obviously your coulds from project 1 and project 2 stop and you move on to project 3. And I think that's one of the key bits about how you bring agility into your projects, and the role of the PMO, the digital team, the transformation team, is that we're understanding where we're at in these projects and where we actually need to draw a line and stop it. That's why I time box them. I keep them in short time boxes. If you need to extend the time box and you need to go again, that's absolutely fine, as long as you're saying we're going to deliver benefits that the time we spend building them gives us a bigger return than obviously the time we're spending. So you can extend, but don't get down into the weeds where you've spent a year building an app because they kept coming back and just asking for a little bit more, and you're actually just tweaking something that was already good enough for them. So you'll hear people talk about MVPs and minimum viable products, stuff like that. You're trying to kind of apply some of those values into your projects, but understanding that you can just stop them before you've actually delivered everything if you get to the point where the time and effort you're going to be spending is better spent on something else. And that all obviously comes back to your annual plan as well, and how that fits in with what you're doing. So I will admit I have built a project management system that kind of manages projects in that way. It actually doesn't work on sprints. It works on something called races, different to sprints in the fact that they're flexible in length. You can adapt them, change them. Sprints are normally kind of 3 week, 3 week, 3 week, because you're looking at cadence. Here we're not. We're looking at kind of a project timescale and a reporting timescale. I've tried to have a bit of fun with the marketing. So these are the bad guys. We've got the twin Dark Princes, which obviously is a play on Prince 2 and how that's structured, because fundamentally there's elements of that I think are in the wrong order, should come much earlier in the process. They don't talk about strategy in projects. And obviously that's where, for most of the work I do, that's the key element. And then we have over here, we have General Gantt chart. I wanted to call him Gantt's heart, but obviously for marketing terms, you want people to be picking it up when they're doing Google searches and stuff. He's General Gantt chart. Hate them with a passion on projects, mainly because they're wrong, badly used, and cause all sorts of problems, and they're quite linear. And his tortoise army. And his tortoise army are the people who slow you down, over governance, overwork, make things too difficult to fill in, to complete. There's no task management. So they're the enemy. If you want to see who the good guys are, you can go to the website, hashroo.co.uk, and on the home screen, you'll read about the good guys who are fighting the evil empire of project management. Not for everyone, going to be Marmite for some, but hopefully a little bit fun. But I believe it's a very good system. It's built on Salesforce. It's adaptable, it's changeable, you can configure it. Lots of things you can do with the system, so please do take a look. And then the simplest slide, really, we're talking about benefits realization. And we've already talked about the fact that we've identified in the strategy what the ambition is and what the problems are we're solving. So there's very little to sit down and go, where are the benefits? What's the benefit realization of this project? Because actually we haven't tried to fudge a load of benefits at business case stage where we've just stuck things in, and you'll hear things about, oh, we've saved some time and we've saved some money and it does a few bits and other things. We're actually going back to, we spoke to the department wanted to achieve this. Here's the thing stopping them from achieving it. We've removed 10 of them, 1 of them, 20 of them, all of them. Therefore, that department should be able to achieve that ambition better or easier. And obviously, there's a line between what you're delivering as the digital, the IT, the transformation team, and what obviously the department needs to do, the change management element needs to do. So you might not actually be able to measure some of these benefits for 6-12 months. So if you're looking at processing times, you probably need 2-3 months after you've gone live with this new tool to look at whether that's actually working, at which point you may need to go back, you may need to tweak, make some other changes. But I think it's important that go live isn't the end of the project. Go live is, here's the system that is going to help you deliver the ambition we need as whether it's the digital team or the change team or whatever team, we need to be measuring that on an ongoing basis over the next sort of six months, 12 months. You put a CRM in, it's not just so you've got a CRM and it's gone live. You put a CRM in because it's making everything else easier. It's making communication easier, single views of customers easier. You need to measure that further down the line. So just build that into the plan. But The key bit is you're identifying the benefits when you do the strategy at the start, not halfway through a program of work. And I talked about how we're kind of bringing the Agile Manifesto into the work that we do and how we're putting this kind of tangent Agile plan together. So you'll have seen through that individuals and interactions, we talk about discussions, we talk about discovery, going talking to people, work in software, we talk about delivering stuff, and it has to work for the department. And for me, work in software is about, does it help remove those problems, not does it work? Customer collaboration, very similar to individuals and interactions. Go and talk to people, do show and tells at the end of every kind of month. I prefer kind of display and discuss because I want it to be collaborative, but talk to them, use them. Within the Hashiru system, we have tasks that are labeled as discuss tasks. So all the way through the project, you can see whether you're having those conversations at the right time, and then responding to change. So although we're putting agility into it, we are putting some structure around an annual plan, but that's kind of so we know if other projects come along, things have to change, things have to get dropped. They don't just get added because one of the team's going to work 5 hours later on a Monday. We need to limit the amount of work we're doing so we're not getting burnt out, but we're still quite flexible in how we achieve that. And then the other section of the Agile Manifesto is the principles. So we welcome changing requirements. We want to satisfy the customers. It says business people and developers must work together. At business people and people involved in the project, whether that's change, digital, whoever, must work together. Build projects around motivated individuals. So with Hashiru, again, we put in the power of decision-making, updates, everything with the project team. You don't necessarily need 3-4 different boards that everything reports to. You can make it very slick and easy, but that's a whole nother kind of webinar on its own, that one. Reflect, regular intervals at the end of every race. I kind of talk about having a race retrospective, look at what you've done and then plan forward for the next one. So we're trying to bring all these values and principles, not just into projects, not just into building stuff, but actually you'll notice a lot of them apply to the strategy or to the plan of how we build stuff. So everything is about kind of IT not being a silo, not writing a silo strategy. It's a joined up piece of work. We're talking to each other. We understand our customers. We understand what's going on, and we understand what we're delivering. It also helps them because we're talking to them about removing their problems. And if you can turn up with a working bit of software and say, we've built this because you told us the things that are getting in your way are X, Y, and Z. This system removes X, Y, and Z from being a problem for you. You're going to be welcomed through the door. It's not something you're forcing on them because you've got a strategy that says we're going to do AI or we're going to do RPA or we're going to do any other cloud or we're going to do anything else. They're all nice principles, but we're looking at what problems have you got? What are we doing as a team to remove those problems for you? And then the key one, simplicity. Everything should be made simple as possible. Too many people, I don't know whether it's because they want to show how clever they are or what, but they spend far too long overcomplicating everything. Make things as easy, as slick, and as simple as possible, and you'll get more work done. You'll deliver more. So hopefully that kind of shows you how the two sides of these things link, how everything in the book, although it was written for one tier, as we bring it down a tier is really useful. And then obviously we've got the agility of how we're going to write the strategy, the plan, business case, projects, and benefits. I'm running out of time slightly, but obviously the book's available. It's on Amazon if anyone wants a copy, or you can go to the Hashiru website, and if you just hold on the homepage for about 30 seconds, a pop-up will come and ask you if you want a free PDF version of it, which you can obviously have and download and read at your leisure. Do have a podcast. I've not actually recorded one for a while, but it's out there if you want to go and have a listen to me rant about various things going on in local government and in IT and digital. And then Hashiru, as I mentioned, it's just www.hashiru.co.uk. That's our actual project management tool. I'm hoping one day in the future it covers kind of the whole process end to end. But at the moment, we're just focusing on project delivery and getting that right first. So yeah, that's me. As AI thinks I look like. I've got blue eyes, which annoys me because they're brown. But there's my details. If you want to get in contact, please do. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you can take something from it. It has been quite quick. I've got a bit of a croaky voice, so apologies for coughing a couple of times through that. But thank you very much for your time. I look forward to speaking to some of you soon. Thank you.